That right there was a clear message that my work was making them uncomfortable. If you didn't have anything to hide, why would you be uncomfortable speaking to me?
Welcome to More Than Inmate's Girlfriend. I'm your host, Jay, and we are going to be with Tori today. You are going to get to meet Tori, who is a fascinating woman, and she is going to talk to us about jail versus prison. So before I was in this realm, I didn't really know that there was a difference between jail and prison, let alone the conditions were different, who runs it is different, everything is basically different between prison and jail. And Tori has been advocating for jails in Ohio, and she just started this journey, and she's gotten amazing success in the jail in her county, but also just learning and spreading the word, basically teaching others that are incarcerated in county jails how to protect themselves and what to do and what rules that should be followed and how to grieve properly and such and such. So she's really made a stink, I should say, in Ohio. And I think we can all learn from her. I get a lot of questions often about what someone can do to help their loved one. And sometimes it can be different between prison and jails, but sometimes it's not. And the process is similar. So I think anybody who is learning about trying to advocate and trying to follow people's stories who are new in the journey and growing, Tori is one of those people. I would also like to give a side note, super exciting. Her loved one was actually released from jail recently, so he is back home and she is super excited, super happy, just living her best life right now with him back home. But that's not stopping her journey. She has some big dreams and big goals and has committed herself to staying in this world to help as many people as she can navigate jail. So without further ado, I'm going to let you listen to Tori and her story and her adventure and what she's found out about jails in Ohio. So enjoy. As usual, if you're interested in getting a gift catalog for your loved one who can order gifts for you in the free world, go to www.morethaninmatesgirlfriend.com, click buy it, and then enter the code JANDAJ, JAEANDAJ to make it free, and then your loved one will receive a catalog. We've already shipped the first round, but we will be shipping probably on a monthly basis. So if you're interested, please go ahead and do that. And as usual, if you're interested in following our social media, you can go to @morethaninmatesgf on TikTok or podcast_prisongf on Instagram to follow us. And of course, if you have watched a few episodes, listened to a few episodes, then you want to follow the show and get notified for new episodes every Thursday, please make sure you follow the show. Hit that plus button at the top of your screen of wherever you're watching. And that's all I got for you. So enjoy Tori, and her information is in the show notes if you want to follow her. Okay, take care, guys. Bye. Tori, I am so glad we connected, and I'm so glad that we get to hang out tonight and interview you. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Good, thanks. So how did you meet your loved one that's currently incarcerated?
We actually met a few years ago through my older brother. We stayed in contact off and on over the years throughout Facebook, and we connected in person not too long before he caught this charge.
Oh, no. That's not fun.
No, it was a tough time.
Jeez. And when did he actually catch the charge?
So he caught this charge in September of 2024.
Oh. And he's been incarcerated ever since?
He wound up getting caught on his warrant in January of 2025. So.
Wow.
Coming right up at the 13-month mark.
So the bulk of your relationship this time has been while he's incarcerated?
With him incarcerated.
Was it the first time that you've been with someone who's incarcerated?
Yes and no. I've got a lot of experience with incarceration. I've had family members incarcerated. I've had friends incarcerated. And I do have one ex who was previously incarcerated, but he was actually incarcerated in a different state at the time. So it's been completely learning this system compared to that system.
Okay, so it's been in your realm, but you didn't know the realities of what happens in county jail until this.
Yes.
Wow. So when he got locked up, was it right away that you figured something's wrong here?
It was within the first 2 or 3 months. And I guess the moment that I knew it was time to actually stand up and take action with it was there was a 2-month period that not just his cell, but the whole cell block was flooding with sewage daily. And it wasn't being addressed by any of the staff members.
You're kidding.
No. Multiple records requests, multiple times of me trying to reach out to our general inspector. At any given time, these men were walking in 1-2 inches of sewage water.
Oh my God. I feel like I'm going to be sick. That is disgusting.
To this day, they still have that issue, but not as bad.
Oh my gosh. How soon after he went in did this start happening?
So the first time he got in his arrest date in January, and the first time it was mentioned to me would have been about the end of February.
And is that really what triggered you to start this journey that you've had of advocacy?
That is one of the things, yes.
Wow, that is disgusting. And I can't imagine as a loved one being at home knowing that your person is in that.
It definitely struck a nerve.
Oh, yeah. So before we get into the details of what you've been doing and specifically your situation and what you've learned about the county jails in Ohio and prisons, there's a lot of people that don't understand that jails and prisons are different. And I wasn't aware until I started being in this world a little bit more. But do you know specifically what the difference is between county jail and prison?
The biggest difference between a prison and a county jail is prisons are part of the Department of Corrections. They are state ran. But your county jails are ran by the sheriff in the county that they are located in. So that affects the funding, the staffing, and the conditions because they're not as closely monitored by the state as your prisons are.
Okay. See, I didn't even know that. So each county is responsible for their own jail.
Yes.
So it could be very different from county to county.
It is. And even here in Ohio, the county we're in, we don't have tablets in our jail.
Okay.
But we at least have video visits.
Okay.
The next county over doesn't even have video visits. It's all handwritten letters. They don't have a kiosk for email messaging, nothing like that still.
Oh, wow. So it really depends where you get arrested.
Yeah.
And then how long do people typically stay in county jail?
So it really depends. I know of people who are in county jail for 30, 60, 90 days.
Okay.
I know of some people who have been in county jail for upwards of 2 years.
Wow.
It depends on what your charge is, if you have a bond, and how long it takes to take you to trial.
Wow, I didn't know that. And then after their conviction, they would go to prison?
Yes.
Okay. Wow. I know I've heard a few things about it, but I didn't actually know the details of it like that. Oh.
I have a friend who did 2.5 years in county jail, waiting on his trial date.
Wow. And then he went to trial?
He went to trial, was found guilty of his charges, and had to do another 5 years in prison.
In prison. Wow. So they could really hold you in there for a while, pending.
Yeah.
Is there any other kind of misconceptions about county jail that you want to share while we're on that topic?
That your experience in county jail depends heavily on where you get arrested at. The jail has tighter budgets, staffing shortages, and common oversight because they're not being as watched closely by the state as your prisons are.
So if you have a complaint about a county jail, it would be a different system than if you have a complaint against prisons?
Yes.
Wow. Interesting.
It's a similar process, but at least here in Ohio, it's a different agency.
Right.
So the Department of Corrections oversees complaints about prisons. The Ohio Adult Department of Probation and Rehabilitation has what they call a general inspector, and that is who oversees county jails.
Okay. So there is a body that oversees all the county jails in Ohio. It's just separate.
Multiple bodies.
Okay.
So the DOC is in charge of all prisons.
Yeah.
But your general inspector is broken down into regions.
Okay.
So that general inspector might have 10, 11 county jails that he's in charge of.
Wow.
But it's still a smaller community than the DOC, who is over all of the prisons.
Right. So the county jails are probably smaller too.
Yes. Our county jail is an older jail. We actually need funding to get it updated. But our jail is only meant to hold, I believe, 78 inmates. And on any given day, we have 100.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, that's a trend of overcrowding.
It really is.
So would you say the living in a county jail is a harder life than living in a prison?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely, 100%. There's things like less access to medical care, fewer mental health services, more overcrowding, and less time outside of their cells because of staffing shortages.
Right. Makes sense. Wow, that's crazy, Tori. I didn't know all this. Thank you for sharing that. Interesting information. One of the things we talked about previously in preparation for this was staff training and all of the insights that you have learned about the staff training in county jails. Can you tell the world what it's like and what you've discovered?
So since we spoke previously, my county jail, the biggest thing that I have discovered is out of the 20 corrections officers employed by our county jail, 15 of them have not went through the corrections academy, including an officer who has been employed at this location since 2001.
My gosh. So who's training them?
Nobody. Wow. We actually failed our annual review due to our COs not being properly trained. Once they get hired on, they have 1 year to go through the corrections academy. And like I said, we have an officer who's been employed there since 2001 and has never went through the corrections academy.
And nobody cares?
No. When I reached out to our county sheriff on this, one of the responses that I got was a vague response of, we can't send them all at the same time. Okay? I understand that. But this academy is held multiple times a year all over the state of Ohio, not just in one location. Why aren't you outsourcing to send them elsewhere to get this training?
Do you know how long the training is?
I believe it is roughly 6 to 8 weeks.
Okay. So it's not a whole year.
I don't believe so. I haven't looked too much into it. I actually just got this information given to me on Thursday of last week.
What made you look into it?
Going back to lack of training experiences that I've noticed with some of our inmates and the way that things are ran in our jail.
Okay.
Is what really made me look into who was trained for what. An example I have of this would really be the fact that our previous sheriff wrote the guidelines for the use of force policy for our jail. And in these guidelines, it states that these COs can skip to basically any step they feel necessary to de-escalate a situation. They don't have to go on a step-by-step basis.
Wow.
And one of the things that I've had an issue with that was brought to my attention is that we had an incarcerated individual who was on the phone finishing up a phone call and refused to get off of it. And instead of just walking over and going hands-on with him and trying to detain him and take him back to his cell, their first line of defense was to mace him.
Wow.
Another way that I've seen lack of training affect an inmate is a friend of mine was found unresponsive. And from the time he was found unresponsive to the time an ambulance call was 10 minutes. And for him to be found unresponsive proved to me that these corrections officers were not doing the checks they were supposed to be doing because he was on 15-minute checks for being suicidal.
Wow.
And when I say unresponsive, he was blue, had no pulse, and had medical tape wrapped around his neck.
Oh my gosh. Was he okay?
Yes, thankfully he did survive.
Wow.
He is one of the lucky ones at our jail.
And I mean, it makes sense because if they're not trained on what to do in certain situations, then they're just flying by whatever they think is the right thing to do. But anybody who's never worked with incarcerated population or people with behavioral issues wouldn't know how to de-escalate a situation or how to react. So I don't necessarily blame these guards, but I cannot believe that it's allowed to just go on and people just do whatever they feel like it.
And this is where my favorite saying comes into play. Just because it's policy does not mean it's law.
Right. So what do you mean by that?
Every state has a set of state minimum standards that a jail has to abide by.
Yeah.
They set basically the tone for how a jail is supposed to be ran. All the policy and procedure does at the end of the day is tighten that. It doesn't take away from the right. So if a policy limits phone calls, visits, information to families, it still can't violate constitutional rights, court orders, or state statutes that are put in place. Internal policy isn't a shield against accountability. Ultimately, they're supposed to explain how the law is followed and not to avoid it. So when a jail uses policy to justify harm and not administration, it becomes a legal issue.
Yeah. That hasn't been really tested so far.
It has been extremely tested with my work that I have done so far.
Yeah. But up until now, people just assumed that they're doing what they're supposed to.
I live in what we refer to as a good old boys town. Everybody knows everybody. Everybody knows somebody in a position of power. Your last name controls your destiny around here.
Whoa.
It has its perks, but it has its downfalls.
Yeah.
One of the biggest things about everybody knows everybody is it keeps a lot of people from coming forward due to fear of retaliation.
That makes sense.
So when people start advocating and wanting to stand up against the system, they get discouraged because it can make life harder for people.
Right.
It's just one of those things. You can be a prestigious member of the community and have never went to jail, and you start speaking out, and magically things are going to start happening to you or your loved ones.
Wow. Have you seen that happen?
It's hard to prove, but
Yeah.
I actually am dealing with it personally at this moment in time.
Wow. That's scary.
It is. We can't definitively prove it, but since I have started speaking out and having our jail investigated and bringing light to these situations, there has been a target placed on my significant other's back.
Oh, gosh. What does he say? Does he recognize that that could be why? Let's say it is.
Yeah, he recognizes it.
Does he worry for you? Does he want you to stop?
No. So when I started this journey, it was not just my choice.
Okay.
He's supported me since the beginning. We knew the repercussions. We sat down. We had 2 months worth of conversations when he'd call of, are you sure you want me to do this? Once it gets to this point, I can't back out.
Yeah.
So ultimately, I let the decision be his.
And what'd he say?
He told me that he was okay with it. He knew the repercussions that he could possibly be facing, but that at the end of the day, if something happened, he knew I wouldn't give up until justice was seen.
Yeah. When my husband, we got in trouble for this podcast, it's a long story, but we have this lawsuit going. But I remember when everything went down and the podcast was released, he called before our phone got cut and he said, whatever happens to me, don't stop, because this is so much bigger than you and I. And he was like, just keep doing it. If I have to be put in the hole, if I have to do whatever, he's like, keep on it, keep doing it, because there's a reason why we're getting so much pushback, and there's a reason why you're doing this and you were called to do this. Don't stop. And I always appreciated that and almost loved him more because he was like, we need to do this for the greater good. And that's exactly what you're doing, is you're not doing it just for him.
And No, anybody that's actually been in the same cell block as him, and even guys in other cell blocks will reach out to him to reach out to me with their grievances. That way I can follow up on it. It's actually a running joke of when something is going sideways in there, we'll look at whatever CO it is and tell them, don't make them call me.
Oh, wow. So, okay, take it back. So there's all these really crazy things that are happening before you decide whether you're going to do it. There's the staffing issues, there's the sewage and environmental issues. There's so many different problems in the county jail. Did you even know where to start? Like, what do I do?
I kind of did and kind of didn't with it. I knew how to pull public records requests from other instances that I've had to deal with over the years. So I just started putting in public records requests of asking about an incident that went on. I'd get the inmate's permission to pull the incident report for it. And I just started stacking all of my evidence. And then I went to Google.
Okay.
Google and ChatGPT.
Yeah, same.
And just started asking, like, is this legal? What is the repercussion if this is happening in a county jail? And I found the OAC, which is the Ohio Administrative Code, and that sets the state minimum standard that jails have to follow.
Oh, okay.
So once I had that state minimum standard to set with these record requests and everything that I was hearing, it made it a lot easier for me to stand up and advocate and push back when I was getting the pushback of, well, it says in our policy we don't have to do this. Well, I'm sorry, the state minimum standard says you do, so let's do it.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, it's AJ from More Than an Inmate's Girlfriend podcast. Our new More Than an Inmate's gift catalog is out, and it's free for a limited time to send to your loved one. We know that just because someone is incarcerated doesn't mean they don't want to make their person feel special, but sometimes they don't have a way to do it. That's what this catalog is for. Visit morethananinmatesgirlfriend.com and enter the code JANDAJ. That's JAEANDAJ to send the catalog today. Because being incarcerated doesn't mean they stop wanting to show effort. Sometimes they just need help doing it.
And you don't get afraid. Like, for me, in my experience, I find prison officials, when they're interacting with me, at least in the history that I've had, not in person, but via email and over the phone and whatnot, they thrive on intimidation and being rude. So, did you have that experience?
I have had a similar experience, and it's kind of one of my favorite things to talk about, honestly, at the end of the day.
Okay.
I actually had an email sent out by our county sheriff telling his staff to not speak to me.
Wow.
It doesn't really scare me, but that right there was a clear message that my work was making them uncomfortable. And if you didn't have anything to hide, why would you be uncomfortable speaking to me?
Yeah.
So there's been pressure, there's been pushback, but that just tells me that there's something there that the public needs to know.
So it just pushes you, makes you want to do this even more.
Yeah.
Wow, you're strong.
I actually have recordings with corrections officers admitting that there's laws being broken.
Wow. So when you first started, did you have main categories that you wanted to work with first? Was it the staff training that you wanted to target first, or what was the first thing you wanted to target?
The first thing I actually targeted before I even went to staff training is after I found the OAC, I made sure every cell block in that jail had a copy of it so these inmates could be aware of their rights.
Oh, cool.
That way they were able to help advocate for themselves.
Yeah. How'd you do that?
I went to the library and printed off a copy and just mailed it in.
Oh.
To every cell block.
Smart.
So I started this head on from the very beginning. My name has been tied to it since day one.
Wow. And so that must have also given you confidence to keep going. Now I can keep moving.
Yeah. So once these inmates had copies of this OAC and they were putting in their grievances, they were actually able to cite what standard was being violated.
Mm-hmm.
So they were able to push back against this whole policy and procedure rule that these county jails live by.
Wow, cool. And then what'd you do after?
I just continued gathering more evidence. It got to the point when these inmates were putting in grievances, they were sending them to my significant other to have him send to me. That way I had copies that I could follow up on. This journey, these inmates have been my biggest support system and the biggest help.
Have the families reached out too? I'm curious.
I've been in contact with a couple families. I had a bad experience with one.
Oh, no.
She started using my name for her agenda and kind of broke some of the bonds that I had been building in the community.
Oh, that's unfortunate.
And then it was a whole situation. And I had another girlfriend that I was speaking with. It was her boyfriend was the one I mentioned earlier who was found unresponsive.
Oh, okay.
So I helped them actually start a civil suit.
Wow.
And put them in touch with lawyers and different things like that. Because at the time, to this day, the inmate is still being held there and he's not supposed to be there. He was supposed to be sent to another facility for psychiatric care, and they still haven't transferred him yet. And this was coming up on 8 months ago.
And so you helped her file a civil lawsuit?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. I taught her how to gather all of the records that she needed, whether they be from the jail. I helped her get a copy of the actual 911 call. I helped her understand the OAC, and then I put her in touch with a few lawyers who practice civil law in this area.
It's crazy because I could see how these county jails would hate you.
Oh, it's no joke. When I walk in, they scatter like cockroaches.
Yeah, it's rough.
There's a few particular corrections officers who will stand and speak with me, who don't have an issue with what I'm doing. They know that I'm doing it for the best of everybody involved.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then there's others who it looks like they see a ghost when I walk through that door.
Yeah, there's fear for sure.
I started this platform, and I'm actually on recording stating it multiple times. I'm not here just to advocate for these inmates. I'm here to advocate for the COs. I want to be the bridge in that gap.
Yeah.
I've sat down with higher ranking members of our corrections academies. I've sat down with higher ranking members of our corrections staff, and I asked them, what do you guys think you need here to better your operation? And I take that and I come back here to the community and I spend time trying to find resources and do things to get what they think we need. I go to the inmates, hey, what do you guys want to see in this county jail that I can take back to these officers and be like, hey, look, your inmates think they would, better be improved if they had these things available to them. What can we do to get it in here? And since I've started this, I've actually got more mental health services into our county jail.
Wow. Cool. It makes sense though, right? Because I think anybody who's listening or has had an experience with prisons, how many people that have experience with jails, but at least for me and my husband dealing with prisons and whatnot, the biggest problem is the culture that is developed amongst the staff versus the inmates. And I don't know how much they realize that it's the staff that are the problem, because if you changed your culture to actually work with the people that are incarcerated, the bulk of the people that are incarcerated would actually work with you, as long as you follow certain rules like respect, and
yep.
That's the start of wanting to come to work. Because I imagine these COs that aren't even trained don't even know what to do in certain situations. I don't think it's their fault that they didn't call 911 on time. I think they didn't know what to do. And imagine the weight that puts on someone.
Exactly. And I'm on record stating, and I'll go on record again, the only difference between a corrections officer and an inmate is somebody got caught and somebody didn't.
Yes, exactly.
They need to humanize these people because, yes, they may have broken a law. Yes, they need to be held accountable if they did. But our system was built on innocent until proven guilty. But it's turned into a guilty until proven innocent society.
Yep. Everywhere we turn. It's always like that. I feel like there should be, and I haven't looked into this myself, but I feel like there should be positions that are exactly what you're doing, where the incarcerated population can interact with someone who can communicate with the staffing, you know, like an intermediary. But I don't know that that even exists.
And it does and it doesn't. There are advocacy groups, but they're mostly at state and federal level. You don't really hear about advocacy groups at county level. So a lot of it is inmates trying to advocate for themselves in a system that they're lost in. And then you bring in somebody who knows the laws and understands the laws, and it kind of just throws a wrench into things that the jail runs, because they're not used to having somebody stand up and be like, hey, look, this was brought to my attention. Now let's fix it.
What's your plan? Obviously, this has become a passion for you. I can hear it in your voice. I can see it in your social media. I don't think this is something that you plan on stopping anytime soon.
No, it is definitely not something that I plan on stopping anytime soon. I actually plan on starting a nonprofit that connects incarcerated men and women with the resources they need to advocate for themselves while they're inside a county jail.
Wow.
Along with helping them transition back into society once they're released, such as getting them access to education, jobs, community support, and different things like that.
Wow, that's incredible. How are you going to start this? Have you looked into it? Is there something that's in the works right now?
So it got put on hold for a little bit, but I have been doing my research as to what type of licenses I would need, how the LLC would work for it, how a nonprofit is set up.
Yeah.
And right now it's just making sure that I have the understanding of what it takes to run a nonprofit.
That's awesome. I'm so curious about your emotional ability to stay so strong throughout this whole thing, because to me, listening to you do all of these things that you've been doing, it seems so overwhelming. There's so much that you've seen, so much that you've done, so much areas that you've helped in. How do you stay so strong and keep going when it feels like everything's against you and you have a life outside of this? How do you handle it all?
So it's definitely a challenge, but I've learned that having a support system and being intentional with self-care is the biggest thing. There are days that it does get to be too much to me, so I step back. It'll be 3 or 4 days and I'll get all these grievances, or I'll have these people messaging me, and I might let them stack up for 3 or 4 days at a time and just step back and focus on me and my kids, because at the end of the day, they have to come first, and I can't be the best me for them and these inmates if I'm not taking time to make sure that I am okay. So it's been a lot of learning to lean on people that I trust, communicating openly, and just knowing when to prioritize my own well-being.
That's awesome that you recognize that, because sometimes people get lost in it, myself included, and we forget to take care of ourselves. And you have a very serious life, you know, outside of this. You have young children that you need to take care of and that are reliant on you. So the fact that you recognize that is so powerful, because that's what's going to get you even further, because you know that you need to pace yourself. We can't get ahead of ourselves sometimes.
Well, and this takes up so much of my life, not even just as an advocate. I'm currently enrolled in school working on becoming a paralegal.
Oh, wow. I didn't know that.
Yeah.
So when did you sign up to become a paralegal?
I started classes for that over the fall.
Isn't it incredible how life goes? Like, 2 years ago, would you have thought that you'd be on a podcast talking about your advocacy and all the crazy work that you've done so far to help so many people?
Definitely would have never, this aspect would have never crossed my mind. It's been a running joke for years, though, with me and friends that I should take the bar exam.
Wow.
Because
really?
I've always been passionate about this type of stuff.
Cool. So you're just following something.
And then I'm following something that I've always been passionate about. And at the end of the day, what pushed me to go ahead and start my journey to become a lawyer is looking at what is going on in our judicial system locally. So my significant other hasn't heard from his lawyer in 6 months. For 6 months, his case was at a standstill.
Crazy.
No calls, no emails, no motions being filed, but you want us to pay you all of this money?
Yeah. Oh, he
has a paid attorney.
No.
Yes.
Wow. That's incredible.
And it's been a mess, but it opened my eyes that there are so many lawyers that even your paid attorneys, they're money hungry. They're not in it for the best interest of their client. So my goal is to become an attorney, but I'm not out here to get rich.
Yeah.
I'm out here to educate. I want to be able to go into these jails and educate these incarcerated individuals on their rights. I want to be able to hold classes here in the public and help families understand the rights these incarcerated individuals have. And I want to work as a criminal defense attorney, ultimately, but on an affordable basis.
Yeah. I feel the same way. I have all these pursuits and passions and stuff that I'm working on, including the podcast, but more stuff to do with publishing books for incarcerated authors and stuff. And it's a fraction of the cost for these guys to do it because they can't do it themselves, right? But I always say the same thing. I'm not here to get rich. I'm here to just make enough to sustain myself so I can help people instead of having to go work for someone else who's going to take advantage of my work and make millions off me. I'd rather have my own company, have it small. It doesn't need to make a lot of money, but at least it makes something so I can eat and then I can help as much as I can. And I think you're on the right track when you're like, I don't even care about the money. I care about how many people I can help.
No, because at the end of the day, my significant other has told me multiple times that he'd be content with me not working. So having that support and knowing at the end of the day that he's going to support whatever decision I make with this career choice helps push me even more in that direction.
Yeah, that's awesome. I feel the same way. I feel like all the hours that I spend working on all these different small projects that I'm working on just re-emphasize for me that I'm on the right track and it'll all work out because I'm not contributing when I work at a cake manufacturer, I'm not contributing in the way that I want to if I was working in a regular job.
And I'm kind of similar. I have a lot of little hobbies. I'm actually a published author myself.
Oh, cool. Do you want to say what book it is?
So it's called Paroled and Permanent. It is kind of a small town romance about a guy who was recently released from prison, sets up a tattoo shop in this small town, and him and the town's bakery kind of fall in love with each other, and then his past starts to come back to haunt him.
Okay, the next catalog that we do, we should add that to our catalog so that people can order it.
Okay.
Yeah, that'd be so cool. Okay, anyway, off topic. Back to it. If you could change one thing right now about county jails, what would it be?
If I had to pick one thing, I'd have to say transparency. It's critical. Families and the public need to know what's happening inside. Something from simple medical care, incidents, staffing practices. Without that, accountability is impossible. Can't really hold these places accountable when you have a loved one who's rushed to the ER for a medical emergency, and you might not know about it until they get back and they call you and be like, hey, hon, look, I was just in the hospital.
Yeah, I know. That I agree with you 100%. I think everywhere there needs to be transparency. And I think when there's a lack of transparency, it's a red flag that if you're trying to hide something,
it really is.
You're doing something wrong here.
And once transparency and training are prioritized, the rest of the system kind of just falls into place.
Yeah, I agree with you. I feel like we've touched on so much in this time together, and I'm sure there's so much more. Is there anything else that you feel like we've missed talking about that you want to add in at the end here?
The biggest piece of advice I can give anybody who has a loved one in a county jail is don't be afraid to speak up. It may seem like you're not getting anywhere, but Rome wasn't built in a day.
I love that, Tori. And I feel like your advocacy work can affect so many people that just don't know. And there's so many people, even on my socials, that are like, I want to do this, I want to do this. And they get that fear. And I think listening to you really makes that possible. Because when you talk about the things that you do, you really just figured it out as you went, like most of us do. And you may have stumbled along the way, but look at what you've been able to accomplish and look at the way that people are looking at you already. And you haven't been doing it for that long.
Oh, and at the end of the day, if this podcast reaches just one person, they could be the change that's needed where they're located.
Yeah. And
my inbox is always open, not just for Ohio prison wives and girlfriends and family members, but any state. If you're interested in starting your advocacy journey, my inbox is open and I'll help point them in the best direction I can.
I love that. And I was just about to talk about that because as much as we talked a lot on this episode about the stuff that you've done, your social media has a lot more videos and stuff, and people can follow your journey as you progress through. How can someone find you so they can continue to watch you or reach out if they need your help?
I have a email that they can reach out to. It is called behindthebarsohio@gmail.com. I'm going to be setting up a TikTok page with that same name and a Facebook page with that same name.
Okay, awesome. And we will put that also in the show notes when this episode comes out so that people can just click on it and go straight to those pages so they can follow you.
Okay.
All right. Well, Tori, I so appreciate the time you spent with me, and I feel like I've learned so much from you, even more than the last time we spoke. So thank you for sharing all that insight.
You're welcome. I enjoyed actually getting to speak out and hope it can help somebody in the long run.
I hope so too.